So what is the next step? So we have a culture of measurement now. What else do you teach CEOs?
The paradigm has really changed in sales on how you go in and first meet with a customer or a prospect. Is in the old days were taught to go in and say, tell me about your business, so that you warm them up, getting them talking about themselves. Well, in today's world, that does not work. If someone comes in and meets with me as a busy CEO and they say, well, what do you do? And I said, well, have you gone to my website? And if they say no, it's almost the end of the meeting right then. It's critical that every person go in and study the company. Before you ever meet with them, you know everything about the CEO, what he does, what he's involved in, what his extracurricular activities are. Does he sit on charities? You know enough about him that you can start connecting through some of the things you've learned about him and feel connected. The second thing I teach in the preparation before you go into the meeting is go in and look at their industry and figure out, are they the industry leader or not? If they're the industry leader, you're going to tailor your questions around what's it going to take and what's critical for you to do to remain the industry leader. If they're not the industry leader, then you want to talk about things you can do to help them become an industry leader. And so the preparation you go in with, knowing what your product can do to help move them further up the ranks in their industry, you bring solutions, they will listen to you. Because many times they're so busy doing within their organization, even their vice presidents, they're not having many people come in with new ideas and solutions that they haven't thought about. So a really good salesperson is really a problem solver. They're bringing in answers that are going to help that company be better.
Tell me about your dealings with salespeople and some of the frustrations you have experienced in dealing with them.
I think my most frustrating thing with salespeople is the length it takes them to get the client from discovery to closure. Most salespeople aren't really effective at that because they're not handling it correctly right in the beginning. Too many salespeople go in and just vomit on the client, everything about their company and everything they have to offer. And if they do that, the chance of closing that sale, that prospect, is pretty small. What you have to do is know what their industry is, where they're strong, where they're not, and ask questions. And go through the needs audit, you find out really what's their hot button. And if you're a skilled salesperson, you know what you have and you know how it's going to make them better. You have to ask the right questions along the way, so you're naturally leading them to discovery. That they go, oh man, what you have could really help us. They need to discover that. You shouldn't be telling them that. You should tell them what you do, what other clients are doing that you've sold and how it's improved them. But you want them to discover how it's going to help their company.
Right. Jeffrey, can you share two quick stories? One from your perspective when you were persuaded by a salesperson who was really good. And two, a situation where you sold somebody and you moved the sale forward from opening to close in the shortest period of time.
Okay, I had a sales group come into me that does sales training. And they're training to sell me on why I need sales training. And I'm like, yeah, I could write a book on sales. And they just asked a few questions, like I'm doing on an audit. How are you doing? And they asked me a few things and I wasn't doing them, even though I've been selling for 35 years. And they just said, you are one of the best, but imagine for a minute, if you did this and this and this, do you think your closure rate would go up? And what's that worth to you to raise that 10 or 20 points by spending an hour a week in some advanced sales training? And they brought me to discovery that even as good as I thought I was, what they had was going to make me better. And the return was enormous on what it would cost in time and money to take their course versus what it could mean in results for me in sales. So 2 years ago, I started taking sales training, advanced sales training, every single week for an hour with my sales team. We all do it together. So we are so much better after some professional sales training than we were after I trained them what to do. So I think everybody needs to always be learning and getting better because everything's changing so quickly.
Right.
You can't do things the way you used to do them.
How about a story where you moved from the opening to the close in record time?
Once I figured out exactly what are the 5 or 6 key questions I asked that will bring people to discover and realize what you need, what I found, it was when we started a company called Health Benefits America back in 1986 and sold it to ADP in 1996, 10 years later, and we had sold 127 of the Fortune 500 companies in that 10-year period, my partner and I. And so we were now servicing 6 million employees around the world or around the country on benefits. And I think the most exciting story I could tell is when we went on our very first business trip and we had a meeting with Kodak and Marriott and Holiday Inns all in the same business trip to go out and sell some national companies. We had sold some local divisions of big companies, but never a national one. So we had these appointments after going to a trade show and had a booth, and we got some interest. So we'd set up these appointments. We went to Holiday Inns first, closed them, went up to Marriott, closed them, and then I get a phone call from Xerox. Said, we hear you're meeting with Kodak. Could you stop on your way and meet with us? So we went to Xerox and sold them. And then we went into Kodak, and it became an issue between the HR VP and the VP of benefits in a fight on who could do it better, internally or externally. And we went out in the end, they decided to go with us. So my partner Ron and I got in the cab and we looked at each other. It was unbelievable that we could sell 4 giant companies in one trip. And but we had something they all needed. And I've found if you can show them visually, the sales made much faster than if you just talk. So we walked in and said, here's the current way you're doing open enrollment for HMOs. Everybody gets all of these packets from HMOs, and they're trying to sort through and make sense of it all. Even the CEO can't do it. It would take hours. I said, here's how we do it. Everything's done in one booklet, comparison on the same chart. You can look at the grid, see what the benefits are of each of your choices and the cost. Look in the back, see if your doctor's on the list, and you can make a decision in 10 minutes. And it was so apparent that this is what they all needed, that it was a pretty simple sell, actually.
So you actually predicted that you can make a decision in 10 minutes. It's almost like a hypnotic command.
Well, in that case, it really was. It didn't happen in 10 minutes, but they would visualize what the issue was quickly.
Right.
And I think one of the problems with most salespeople is they don't know how to quickly tell what they do and the power of it. They get into too much detail, and CEOs, especially, or senior VPs, they don't have time. They want the executive summary. So you need to learn to do things concise and get to what the real value proposition is quickly.
Right.
If you're not doing that, they're going to tune out mentally, and you're going to see them looking at their watch or looking at their cell phone. And the minute you see them do that, you've lost them.
So what was the result of that one-day sale?
The one-day sale was $3.5 million in revenue to us.
It's a nice payday.
Yeah, it was great.
I think we need to do another interview on how you call on 127 Fortune 500 companies and go big whale hunting.
Sometime we can do that. The other secret I would share in selling and keeping clients is Ron and I split up our client list, which grew every year, and we would personally call those customers every quarter. We would send them over a questionnaire, a survey, and it would ask how are account managers doing on a scale of 1 to 10. 10 exceptional, 0 is terrible. And we would go down every question to find out how they felt we were doing. And we did that quarterly. Twice a year, instead of doing it by phone, we would actually meet face-to-face with the client. Go out to dinner, out to a ball game, spend some time, and then we'd go through the survey. And the last thing on the survey is, what else can we do to help remove pressure from you? And we would come back with about 20% more business every time we met with clients by asking them, what more can we do to help you?
Thank you.
Thanks.